record this session. There it is. We're recording this session. So good to see you, those new and familiar faces alike. I'm Sarah Moore, Business Development for BenefitBump. We are thrilled to launch our next webinar series, so welcome. We're calling it the How-To series because at BenefitBump, we don't want to admire the problem, we want to fix it. My guess is that all of you on the phone today are here because you want to fix something for your employer or your client as well. And let's be honest, working parents are still suffering in the US, with many new parents living paycheck to paycheck, struggling with childcare, and feeling burned out. This is a big, big problem for employers because it translates to, and you're probably tired of hearing about it, lower productivity, higher turnover, and higher claims costs. But even though you're probably tired of hearing about it, we're tired of talking about it, it's not going away. And it's not just working parents. You all are probably struggling to keep up with the dozens and dozens of point solutions, calling each week a broader set of objectives to meet your role and your goals, and a fiercely competitive labor market that heightens the need for innovation. So the How-To series is designed to make life a little bit easier for all of you on the call by tapping into experts to share their thoughts on how to address very specific items on most broker, consultant, HR to-do lists today. Today, we'll tackle the design of fertility benefits and supplemental health solutions. I'm pleased, so honored to be joined by Sherry and Lydia. We hope you find this session helpful. So to jump in, when you open your Apple News feed, you likely see headlines like these: turnover, quiet quitting, employees want to feel connected to their employer. The reality is that even though there is a rumor of an economic slowdown, it has not changed the need for top talent. These issues will continue to be needs for HR executives for the foreseeable future. And it's not just turnover. It's also organizational commitment to DE&I, which employees are starting to really challenge employers on what they are doing. What are the tangible steps that employers are taking? The two tie together because in surveys conducted by a number of different sources, families are forming later, and everyone deserves an affordable path to parenthood. It's becoming a key piece of having an equitable and inclusive workplace. So 2 more quick stats, because we love stats here at BenefitBump. We want to make sure that you retain. When employees don't understand their benefits, the value is lost. We were talking to a very, very large organization that recently rolled out fertility benefits. In that year, 12 months post rollout, that large organization only had 1/3 of the expected utilization for that fertility benefit. And it's because clearly employees weren't able to find the information they needed, or they didn't even think that this was something their employer would provide, which we know is happening all over the place. It's the age-old challenge. How do you make sure employees know about benefits, resources that are available to them for any life event? But probably more complicated is that growing family, because this is likely the first time that they are interacting with their health plan, their workplace policies, supports in a meaningful way. So another stat, only 18% of hospital indemnity claims are for maternity, even though 30% of hospitalizations are for maternity. And why is this important? As HR teams and consultants are helping tackle HR goals, just rolling out the benefit is not enough. So this is why BenefitBump exists. But before getting into that, I'd like to introduce Sherry Keller at Kindbody, who's going to do a little workshopping exercise on fertility benefits. And following that, Lydia Jilek at Securian, Lydia, at Securian is going to help us think about voluntary benefits in the context of how they benefit growing families. So a little bit different lens than I think we're used to thinking about VB. So with that, I will pass it over to Sherry.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Sherry Keller here. I am on the Kindbody growth team, and We work so closely with the Benefit Bump team. We absolutely have loved getting to know all of them. And we work on mutual employers together to create a super cohesive experience and this wonderful umbrella of coverage that really truly helps to impact the stats that Sarah was sharing with you already today. And I'll provide a little bit of stats as well along the way, just as Sarah loves to hear more and more about this in the industry. But when thinking about fertility and family building, 10 years ago, that was really a nice to have benefit. And nowadays it is a need to have. And it's a component used to attract and retain talent, but it's also a tool to help to impact that overall reproductive medical spend. And by better care, better management, we can help to make a true impact there. So the need for action is that, 1 in 3 women are struggling with fertility over the age of 35. And when looking and thinking about your demographic population, so consultants who are maybe evaluating on behalf of employers or employers who are looking at their own population, we really look at the higher probability of individuals embarking on that reproductive journey from 25 to 35. And with fertility health declining more rapidly after the age of 35, that's where a lot of these interventions are very necessary to support individuals and help give them the tools that are going to give them a lower cost and healthy path to building their family. We also know that same-sex couples will need some assistance through either donor services, same-sex male may look for surrogacy services. Anyone can utilize adoption, foster care services, and similar to what Sarah said, there's a lot of studies out there, and they all overwhelmingly show that employees are more likely to switch companies to gain fertility benefits. They are more likely to stay with an employer if they've utilized fertility benefits. And overall, all employees, regardless of the need of family building, are more grateful towards companies that offer these types of benefits. So it is an important component of an overall benefit strategy. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So when working with consultants, employers, we ask kind of, how are you coming to us? And, what's driving to look at this type of a benefit? So a lot of times we hear DE&I initiatives looking to create equity within their plan design, of course, that attraction retention tool, supporting LGBTQ plus communities through equitable benefits. So I'd love to actually hear from you now. So if Scott can actually pull up a poll, what we would love to hear is, what are you hearing either from your employees, from your employers? Is this a focus on driving lower cost within overall reproductive spend on the medical plan? Are you having high NICU, high risk maternity? So we'd love to get a pulse for maybe some of the reasons that you're hearing today. And then if you have an other that's not listed here, we would love if you could utilize the chat and share more. So I'll give you just a minute. We'll see if any chats come in. I know everyone's thinking, but this is a good moment for the background music.
Next time for sure, Sherry.
I love it.
Not Spotify on my phone.
It looks like we might have a block on the screen for some. Interesting. We had a comment about some, even, state by state differences and nuances may impact this. Just an advocate for employers in general to be offering this type of benefit. I absolutely love this comment that came in because At Kindbody, our goal is to provide accessible and affordable care for all. So when there are additional advocates out there helping to educate the population, one is individuals to understand and know more about their own fertility health. That just helps for, prevention down the line, can actually prevent, higher cost spend down the road. But an advocate then for employers to offer this type of assistance really helps individuals with some of that financial coverage, that financial assistance to be able to create the family of their dreams. I love that comment. Okay, can we see the poll results? It went away from me, so I'm not sure if we can see the poll results.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to apologize because
Okay.
I'm not sure why it wouldn't show up. I can see if I could. Okay, so it said 35% have no coverage today, but employees are asking. 30% said there are pain points with their medical plan coverage. 22% said inequity in their current plan designs, and 9% said to address high-risk maternity and NICU spend.
I love that. Interesting. There's such a need to evaluate current plan designs, ensure that you are providing the right tools to create really equitable programs, and the need to add coverage perhaps for the first time. So Kindbody, this was actually last year, we evaluated all of the employer groups, and of those that were coming to us, 68% of them were adding coverage for the first time. And then a large portion were also moving coverage. So creating a more robust or enhanced plan design through Kindbody. But that is, it's just such a demand for this type of a benefit. And then as more and more employers are offering this type of coverage, it expands to those that aren't, looking to create equitable benefit packages amongst even within their industry. Okay, so we can jump to the next slide. So let's get into more of the workshop session. So what's next? So what can you do? So I would recommend first is an evaluation of where we're at today. So again, consultants looking at specific clients' overall benefit offering or understanding their goals, and employers, what you're trying to achieve with this. So what pieces of this is part of your strategic plan for this year, future roadmap? What are you hearing from employees, kind of driving from some of those poll questions? Do you have current coverage today, and what does that all entail? We will actually, on the next slide, don't go there yet though, Scott. On the next slide, we'll do a deeper dive into kind of current coverage evaluation and some of the levers that you can really pull to make enhancements. But does your plan create an equitable benefit for all paths to parenthood? And when I say all paths to parenthood, I'm referring to supporting individuals who need that fertility treatment, but also those that fertility actual treatments might not be the path for them, but it is utilizing donor services, surrogacy services, the adoption path. So really creating that equity in the plan to expand to some of those other types of services, because it truly does support all unique paths to parenthood. And then, do you have leadership support? So we actually work with a lot of employers that they're talking to their benefits team, their consultant team, and we help them create a plan and an approach, a presentation to either a board that would approve benefit changes or to leadership. And just knowing first if they have buy-in, if there's any type of a budget that's allotted towards these types of benefits, what that might be. So that's really great background information to have as we really think about the next step, which is creating some of those small changes or improvements. And one that I would highly recommend is really our first bullet here. It is looking at any current coverage that you might have, or if you are looking to add coverage, is to ensure that you have created a plan design or revised a plan design that helps to remove barriers to access to care. What I mean by that is under a lot of times medical plan coverage, it would have things like timed trying before you're deemed really an infertile diagnosis, maybe failed attempts, or certain dictated courses of treatment that you have to do first. And so removing those specific pieces of barriers to care, one, helps to remove any type of discrimination to your unique path to parenthood and create that equitable plan design, but it also helps individuals access the best care and the best treatment path for their individual needs. So when a plan dictates somebody has to perform a certain type of procedure first, that might not be the best procedure for them, and it could cause higher risk complications down the line. So removing those barriers is going to be a great first step to create that equitable and healthiest plan design. Of course, extending to all paths to parenthood, as we talked about, evaluating your medical spend. So we talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but are you seeing higher NICU costs, high risk maternity on your overall medical spend? And if you are, that's where a vendor like Kindbody can come in and really truly help you with better care management. So it's early education, it's early intervention, it's management throughout each of those components, and to help to get to lowest risk, healthiest path, and healthiest singleton life birth. So those are some of those kind of small tweaks that you can get started with. And then of course, thinking about like best in class, like you're looking to truly use this as a traction tool, absolutely a retention tool. We talk to employer groups that come to us with a little bit of sense of urgency, who are trying to retain top talent. They've been notified they're going to switch to another role because of this type of coverage. Like, how fast can you help us get coverage so we can retain this talent? So that's more of a reactive than proactive approach, but that does happen. So we work with you to create that really that robust plan design that's going to be that tool for attraction retention. And then, beyond just all paths to parenthood, it's looking at tools that support the whole person. So as an individual embarks through their family building journey, they're going to encounter different needs throughout different steps of the way. So I actually am a fertility patient myself, and a success story with Kindbody, and absolutely adore my 9-month-old, who's 9 months yesterday. And I needed additional supportive assistance along the way. So I connected with a doula to create a birth plan. I did return to work sessions and lactation counseling. I am about to utilize a sleep training, although I did sleep well last night, but there are unique needs that you may need along the way. And so benefits like supplemental services through Kindbody, BenefitBump, and everything that they have to offer creates that really robust coverage, and working with vendors that created a very holistic approach. So Kindbody, BenefitBump, how we work together, creates that very holistic approach underneath that same umbrella, really helps to remove fragmentation in an individual's journey when they can come to one of us and have all of the tools that they need to help them every step of the way. I'm going to pause. Let's see if we had, I think we might have had a couple chats. Let's see.
So we had a chat, just a few folks, Sherry, reporting reasons why their organization is looking at fertility. And it was so interesting in the poll. It seems like a pretty even split, 35%, 30-something percent, 22%. And then the maternity claims was interesting for us because I thought that would actually be higher for those folks in the audience at 9%, looking at implementing fertility for high risk, because definitely helps for implementing a fertility solution, helps to reduce claim costs as well. So super interesting how that broke down. And then we just got some input from other participants on the call as well as to why they would like to and are looking at fertility.
And that's a really good point that I should bring up. There was a study done, I think it was 2021, asking employers who had added fertility coverage, if they felt like they spent more money overall, and 97% said that they didn't see a change in their overall spend. So the impact of even adding something like fertility coverage really does translate. I mean, fertility coverage, the, leave assistance, through BenefitBump, and, all those other supplemental services, returning to work, all of that does help bring down the overall big picture spend. And a lot of that, even like early education, is going to translate downstream, like years down the line, of reduced high risk plan, spend. So we could spend a lot of time here and do much more deep dives. We can do individual deep dives for employers and consultants working with your employer groups. You will receive this deck as well as an analysis checklist. This is a great tool that will help you kind of structure budget specific, as well as where you're at today and what your goals are. So there's a link in here to this analysis checklist. I love the way that this is laid out here on the screen, because it's a really great kind of low cost solution options all the way to best in class coverage. And everything that all of the levers that you can pull to really support your members and create that really robust plan design. So I do just want to spend a little bit of time, especially in the good section here, because these are great first steps. So as I mentioned before, like evaluating your plan design coverage today, I highly, highly recommend that you ensure that your medical plan is currently covering diagnostics for individuals to be able to perform assessments. So if an individual can perform, thank you, Latanya. If an individual can perform a diagnostic test, it truly educates them on their fertility health, and they can plan ahead for the future. This is where we can also identify things like a diminished ovarian reserve. So an individual may want to embark on like an egg freeze cycle so that they can preserve their fertility future if they're not ready to have a child today. Whereas if they weren't educated and aware, they may spend lots of money trying down the line and ultimately becoming unsuccessful. So those pieces are so helpful for members. The education is, we're doing a great job in the industry helping to educate the public, but we can do more. And so that's one that I highly recommend. Looking at egg freezing from a medically necessary standpoint too. So if an individual receives a cancer diagnosis, or they're going to embark on a medication treatment path that's going to impact their fertility future down the line, highly encourage that it's covered, that they can perform an egg freezing. So they have the ability to be biologically related to their child, where that medical procedure may prevent that in the future had they not been able to do an egg freeze. The next one I'm very passionate about as well, surgical procedures relating to reproductive health. Our goal at Kindbody is to actually help individuals become pregnant naturally. So before they ever even have to touch anything in the better column, we want to help them be able to evaluate and understand if there are other types of procedures that can actually help them become pregnant naturally. So offering those under your medical plan, again, helps creating, reduction in long-term potential spend, high-risk pregnancies, and things like that. Then there are some other components, leverages, of course, on-site lactation rooms, nothing new there. But there's also a significant move to providing parity to not only maternal leave, paternal leave, so time off, no matter how you're bringing your baby home. And of course, that leave administration support, so important, but using someone like BenefitBump to be able to guide members throughout that whole process, it just really reduces stress throughout that whole process. I just can't say it enough. Like, no clue going in for the first time. And so having BenefitBump help to support you through that is so helpful. And then, of course, just updating that nomenclature to parental leave versus maternity leave and things like that. So your better column is really where we can play with plan designs. And so if you have limited budget, but you want to offer something, we can still offer everything that's here in this better category at very low cost to you. It's just playing with customizing how that plan design is structured. So this is where, companies like Kindbody, we work with you to establish that benefit plan design for all of those components, kind of when you're into those next steps. Like, you do need a little bit of assistance to help create your family. And so those are the components that we can build out. And then, of course, you're best in class. So you want to make this the most attractive benefit. You want to use it for attraction tools. So we would recommend looking at industry benchmarking. It takes on average 2.2 cycles, so like 2.2 rounds of IVF to bring home a healthy singleton live birth. That's national average. Some may use one, some may need more, but creating a kind of a benefit plan design structure that's right about that is going to be a very attractive benefit to help an individual bring home their family. Now, there are other types of leverages you could do, as much coverage as you need to bring home that singleton life birth. So it may be just one cycle, it may be 3. We can talk about all those details, but then it's again, everything else. So all that additional support, helping with the mental health component of it. If you have experienced loss, that's so valuable. Postpartum support, that return to work support, all the way through menopause support and resources. And then there's some even more robust things you can do with offering additional paid time off for encountering a miscarriage or when you are receiving IVF treatments. Childcare benefits, so assisting with the cost of childcare. And then, through Kindbody, we actually offer, part of our benefit is additional years of egg and embryo storage. 1 year comes natural with Kindbody, and it does come with most vendors in the space, as well as most clinics through medical plan coverage. But you can also offer additional years of storage for the length of the time that they're employed. So many levers we can pull. We can customize plan designs to fit exactly what you're looking to achieve for your members. So feel free to reach out to Kindbody. We can walk you through all of that as well and help you create a robust benefit plan. And so I'll just leave you with one, kind of quick note on who we are as Kindbody. We are that benefit manager. So we would manage those custom plan designs for you. And we actually work with the largest fertility network across the country. We also offer a narrow network, but that's something we could discuss with you and your individual goals. But what makes us so unique at Kindbody is that we are also in the provision of care. So we have a growing footprint of Kindbody clinics across the country. And you can see an image of, this is actually our first clinic in New York, and they all look equally as beautiful and welcoming. We've curated this experience to provide a really high touch, high quality, exceptional member experience. And as a provider, we can lower costs and control and improve outcomes. So thank you so much, everyone. It's been great joining the team here today, BenefitBump, and I'll also pass it along to Securian Financial.
Hey, Sherry, do we want to stop and just open it up super quickly to see if there are any questions for you? Any questions from employers or consultants about kind of next steps, things that they're thinking about? Just take a quick minute. If anybody wants to come off mute and ask a question, feel free. I know sometimes that's intimidating, so feel free to put them in the chat as well.
It can. And a lot of this can be sensitive topics and maybe more personal to you individually as well. So, happy to discuss one-on-one too.
And maybe folks can't even come off mute. So
That's true too.
do that because maybe that's how we set it up. Feel free to use the chat. So excited, Lydia, for your presentation. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Sherry. That was absolutely wonderful. And Sarah, Scott, thank you for having Securian at the session today. Very excited to sort of think about family-friendly voluntary benefit considerations and think about how some of the products that the voluntary benefit space can offer more broadly, either through Securian or through a variety of other carriers, can really create this universe of products that can really help with families as they continue to grow and change. You know, we've heard a lot about some of the things that we can do from a fertility standpoint in the first part of this, but I'm going to expand the scope just a little bit as we go forward here. So if we think about voluntary benefits, they're a way for employers and consultants to drive value in the benefit plans, particularly as we think about increasingly diverse workforces. Accident coverage, critical illness, and hospital indemnity coverage are three of those core voluntary benefit products that we see in the market. With accident coverage can provide extra protection on generally a scheduled basis for individuals who have accidents, such as fractures, dislocations, burns, and things of that sort. We're seeing more and more carriers expand those offerings to include sports riders for children. So thinking about different families, if you'll see at the bottom here, we're starting to also see a lot of the plans, including those that Securian offers, including coverage for dependent parents. So if you perhaps have a dependent parent in your household with a broken leg or something of that sort, we're really seeing increases in the diversity of the benefit offerings that are being made available as we move forward. Moving to the center section here, critical illness coverage can provide peace of mind to supplement in the case of perhaps one of those infrequent and very scary things. I call it sort of the list of things that keeps you up at night, but things like heart attack, cancer, stroke, and more specific to children, things like Down syndrome, cystic fibrosis, and a number of other conditions that are really identified for children and families. And then to the far right, perhaps one of the most intuitive fits is the hospital indemnity product, where we provide most basically coverage for individuals as they are giving birth in the hospital for that, generally an initial hospitalization benefit. And I'll have an example later on in the slides specific to this one, as well as a daily benefit as people are in the hospital for that. The Benefit Bump concierge service can definitely help in this. And I'm also thinking about sort of all the work that Kindbody and other organizations can put into getting families to this place in their fertility journey. So inspired by some of the work that all of you are doing as well as we move forward through this. So let's talk about a couple other kinds of benefits as well. Identity theft coverage is another coverage that can be offered, moving out of sort of the supplemental health space. Identity theft coverage, again, thinking about the broader family situation. It can cover singles. So if you just are an individual looking for coverage versus family coverage. And one of the things that we're finding in this space and coming from the consulting area, I found this really sort of fascinating and terrifying at the same time, is a lot of individuals who are nefarious are no longer necessarily trying to harvest the Social Security numbers and take over the identities of people my age. They're going after younger people and seniors. So really making sure that you have identified, okay, once your newborn has a Social Security number and are potentially able to lock that individual's identity early on, that baby's identity early on, that's going to benefit them down the path. I have heard a podcast or two about family members who have taken advantage of other family members in that situation. And there's also strangers doing the same thing. Another interesting product in this space is a legal plan. Generally, you have opt-in, opt-out coverage that would cover all family members. We don't necessarily think about this in terms of family-friendly benefits, but you think about wills, trusts, family planning, surrogacy, adoption, all of those services. And I can see Sherry nodding along with me, are things that are things that really these legal plans can also benefit for. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the differences around auto, home, and pet coverage as we move into some of the subsequent slides. So why don't we move on to the next one here? Before we go too much further, I did want to share sort of at a high level some of the costs of the product, just to give you an understanding of what the employee cost would be. For the most part, these products are paid for 100% with employee dollars, as opposed to having a cost share with the employer. Though carriers are always excited to have a cost share, it definitely can change the dynamic in terms of what the price point may be. But for those of you who have been in the industry for a while, either from a client perspective or from a consulting perspective, we have really seen some of the price points go down. And I got these first three hot off the press from my actuary this morning, but the average coverage, and this is a combination of individual coverage, employee plus one, and family coverage for accident, is about $100 a year. So think about the coverage that you can have for that family member there. Critical illness, again, covering a host of critical illnesses, heart attack, cancer, stroke, childhood conditions, about $215 a year. Again, we've seen the price point drop pretty significantly. And then hospital indemnity is averaging about $230 on an annual basis. Critical illness coverage, identity theft coverage is about $150. And then legal is probably the most expensive, and that's ranging about $250 a year, depending upon the coverage that is available. All of these plans can have really different price points. These are averages, so don't quote me on them if you send a quote into Securian about voluntary benefits, but it just gives you a little bit of estimation of what some of the costs may be. And thinking about a roadmap for voluntary benefits, similar to the good, better, best that Sherry walked you through from a fertility standpoint, I thought it would be helpful just to take a pause back and think about, what do we want people to think about as they're thinking about voluntary benefits? First of all, know your population, and they're the basic demographics: age, gender, family status from a medical plan perspective. And if you have a broader understanding, do you have a surcharge for spouse coverage? So maybe there are some additional spouses out there that are not on your health plan, trying to sort of understand what some of those kinds of things are. Any other information you can glean from employee engagement surveys. And this sort of moves into some of what those pain points are. Reach out to your HR service center, finding out what questions people may have on that front. And then one of the untapped sort of fountains that of really good information I find is recruiting. And I think this is something, if you see people who might be leaving or people who are considering coming to your organization, talking to those individuals and talking to those people who talk to those individuals can be a fantastic source of information about what people are looking for, and keeps you a little bit further along in the spectrum of what may be next. Again, understanding pain points, not just thinking about where are we doing well, but really digging into what are those changes. Also, are you planning to make any changes to your underlying medical plan that may have an impact on coverage? For example, if you're thinking about adding a surcharge as it relates to having a spouse on the plan, or any of those kinds of things, what are the implications that you may see from that perspective for individuals? Then thinking about, who do you want to be as an employer? I think this is one of the most important questions that an employer can ask themselves, or a consultant can ask their employer. Do you want to make sure that you have best in class benefits that are available for your employees? Do you want to make sure that you have the broadest set of benefits that are available for employees, and things of that sort? Then also thinking about, who are your current carriers? So from a benefit standpoint, do you want to limit the number of carriers that you may be working with? Perhaps you have a particular carrier for disability coverage, and there may be a logical connection with that coverage to the critical illness coverage, or maybe the critical illness or the hospital indemnity coverage, excuse me. Thinking about some of those, do you have Securian, for example, for your life insurance coverage? Do you want to think about maybe engaging with your medical carrier because of opportunities associated with that? So thinking about what that universe is, and then also thinking about how do you engage, if you are not the broker or consultant in this picture, how do you engage with that broker or consultant to think about which of the carriers that you're considering, which of the products that you're considering may make the most strategic fit from their perspective. These are individuals that you are leaning on to provide benefits and guidance for you as you move forward, and really engaging them and listening to their counsel is, I think, always going to be a benefit for you as you go forward. Then going through the RFP process, I've consolidated a whole bunch of stuff here into little bullet point number 6, choosing the products and carriers. Again, thinking about what may be appropriate. What products may you want to begin with? Not necessarily having all products rolled out at the same time. If you roll out critical illness, hospital indemnity, accident, ID theft, legal, we didn't so much touch here on the coverages like pet insurance or auto home coverage. You also have just an awful lot that's going on. So making sure that you're not overwhelming individuals with choices as they are going through that open enrollment process. And that if you're thinking about perhaps rolling out a product like the Kindbody solution, thinking about the BenefitBump's solution that is tied to the Securian hospital indemnity product, thinking about how all of those things can be tied together. So perhaps if you're thinking about rolling out some of these solutions, that's the appropriate year to roll out the hospital indemnity product if you're on the fence between that and the accident coverage. So thinking about what may be appropriate and how you may be able to tie some of those things together in the communication. And you'll see, I think, that the last 2 bullets here, 7 and 8, are communicate and communicate some more. Sarah said this really early on, and I want to drive home this point, is that you can tell people during open enrollment, people can make an informed, engaged decision on purchasing or not purchasing, regardless of where you are. But then you also need to make sure that you are communicating to people throughout the course of the year and over multiple years, thinking about how those products that they have elected from a coverage perspective can benefit them going forward. Sarah, I saw you come off mute, so I'm wondering if you have something to...
I did. Well, no, it's just, that's the name of the game, right, Lydia? It's like we can try our best, I think, as an employer and the benefits team and the consultants that support, but a lot of times from the employee's perspective, it just doesn't click. Like, we're experts in this, we know kind of the ins and outs, but as an employee, it feels like alphabet soup and word mumbo jumbo. So for us, that was truly the whole reason that BenefitBump was created, is we have to create that warm relationship with an employee to have and unlock the full benefits package, whether that includes accident, critical illness, hospital indemnity. So that education along the way as to what's relevant and when helps, I think, Lydia, with that overload. Because like you said, if you try to roll out too many things at once, there's the overload. So how do we break it down? And that's what we do at BenefitBump. So anyway, I couldn't resist coming off for that. Communicate is so important.
It is incredibly important. Sharing stories, all of those things, how people can use the products. In one of the later slides, one of the next slides, I'll go through a benefit example, but just at a high level, for all of the products that we've been talking about so far, the accident, critical illness, hospital indemnity, ID theft, legal, all of those products have evolved over the years. So historically, we may have seen health questions or things of that sort being asked in order to qualify for coverage, particularly for critical illness or hospital indemnity. Historically, we had sometimes seen pre-existing condition exclusions in some of those products where perhaps you might not be eligible for pregnancy for 12 months. The consultants historically have been working with the carriers in order to eliminate some of those things. So from a benefits administration, these are generally products that can be enrolled very much like a dental product. You select single family coverage. You can also have additional, I like to call it bites at the apple each year at open enrollment or with a qualified life event. So it doesn't feel disjointed from that underlying medical flow. And that's true for all of these products. If you think about other kinds of products like pet insurance, auto, home, and things of that sort, those are coverages that you probably do have to provide a little bit of additional information about what kind of dog you have, or what kind of roof you have. That's going to take a little bit of additional underwriting, but these are products that are very simple for you all to enroll and manage on an ongoing basis. And in most instances come with 3 to 5 year rate guarantees. So you're not going to see price change over time. So why don't we move on to the next slide here, and we'll go just through an example, and I want to be respectful of time as we move forward to give opportunity for some additional questions at the end. And I think I have a poll question, but I held it to the end because I was a little bit afraid of the big black box. But here's an example of Mary. She's filing a claim for her second child. And you can see here that there is the opportunity for an initial benefit for a non-ICU hospital stay. That's generally a single day benefit of say $1,000. It may be $500 depending upon the plan. If she had to actually go into the ICU because of a high-risk pregnancy or because of some sort of complications, that benefit is generally twice that of the initial stay. And in this example, we're using the high plan, and then there would be a daily benefit for each day she is in the hospital. Based on our claims information, that daily benefit would probably be about 3 days. So we're showing at the bottom here $600 for an indemnity benefit that would be payable directly to Mary for $1,600. That is not assigned to the carrier, and it is not there's no coordination of benefits with the underlying medical plan. So for example, if you do have a high deductible health plan or something of that sort, this is going to be a benefit that's going to be something that individual, so Mary and her family, can use for a variety of things. If perhaps she has already met her out-of-pocket maximum for the year, she can use it for diapers and other things, or she can use it to pay for the deductible co-pays and things of that sort associated with the medical plan. But again, those dollars are hers to use as she wishes. And again, the way we have seen the plans evolve over the last several years, there's no pre-existing condition exclusion. So somebody does enroll in coverage in October, sort of during that open enrollment window that most people have, and then has a baby January 1st or January 2nd. That would be for most carriers a covered condition. Always make sure that you check with your carrier, check with your consultant about some of the specifics around these things. But this is a benefit that people can really enroll in and use very quickly. And then I think we will open it up to questions. And there's a question here: would the benefit be pre-tax or would it be taxable? So that's a fantastic question. What we generally recommend, and I've come from the consulting side as well as the carrier side, is to have the premiums deducted on a post-tax basis, like you do with your disability coverage, to make that a non-taxable benefit. So great question, Nick.
That is also a great question when it comes to fertility and family building benefits as well. There are some benefits that are post-tax, and that's also something we work with you on to identify pre-tax versus post-tax. So you have a good understanding of that and provide the reporting back on anything that's post-tax. Good question.
Going back, Lydia, the payment, the $1,600 check that the new mom receives after the hospital stay, is that taxable to the new mom?
No, as long as the premiums were taken on a post-tax basis. There's a very small FICA savings if you take premiums on a pre-tax basis. But from a reporting standpoint, most individuals, when they get a $1,600 check, are going to spend $1,700. And getting a 1099 the following January doesn't put anybody in a very good spot. So for the tiny little bit of FICA savings that the individual would receive and the employer would receive from a pre-tax deduction, we have generally recommended that that's not the way you move forward with these.
Great.
It was really great.
Yeah. Well, and I'll try to speed through some of these key takeaways because I do want to make sure and appreciate all of the participants, all the folks on the call asking questions through the chat. So continue to feel free to add additional questions as I'm going through these. But definitely thank you to Sherry and Lydia for walking us through the tangible considerations and the next steps for fertility and voluntary benefits and ways to think about how those can support growing families. So love working with Kindbody, Sherry. It's such a joy to work with you on clients and to work with Kindbody, such a unique model. Love, love, love how beautiful the clinics are. And we have a wonderful one here in St. Louis as well. And really helping to back that fertility investment. So love BenefitBump and Kindbody working together. And then Lydia, so many great points that you highlighted, a different lens around those VB products and ways we can communicate them. So the families take advantage of those voluntary benefit offerings. And love working with Securian on the hospital indemnity space. So for those on the phone that don't know, BenefitBump is being baked into Securian's hospital indemnity offering. So for those employees that buy Securian's HI product, they will have access to BenefitBump for free. So we're happy to get into that at a later time, but Securian, we have so much love and respect for just the brand, the culture, the products that you offer, and appreciate and are honored to be a part of this partnership with you all. So super quickly, okay, key takeaways, because we love good, better, and best. We're going to do it one more time. So on the good side, you probably heard it many times, but we'll go ahead and reiterate it again. Review your medical plan's fertility coverage for adequacy and inclusiveness. Make sure you're revisiting the way that you market your supplemental health products. So how you communicate those different flyers, different ways. Obviously at BenefitBump, we help kind of communicate those different VB offerings as well for those growing families. But other types of communication campaigns, reviewing how you're communicating those is really important. Also, Lydia, I think Sherry, everybody dug into this last point, reviewing the data to evaluate how these benefits are being used by your employees and then where you would like to see them used moving forward based on the goals that your organization is trying to meet. And some of the surveys too, where we had somebody say, hey, this is the feedback we're getting from employee surveys. We need more family-friendly support. So putting that lens on these different resources. On the better side, evaluating and model alternative plan designs for other paths to parenthood. Sherry, you covered that so nicely. Refreshing the supplemental health products to fill gaps that you identified, already covered that. And lastly, on the best, modernizing those fertility benefits, treatment, costs, making sure all of those paths to parenthood are solved for, and it's really easy to find care providers and that care is coordinated. So important. So a solution like Kindbody, and last but not least, syncing up your supplemental health design with medical plans and leave programs to make sure those jive. So join your innovative peers, your colleagues and competitors that have already taken support to the next level for their growing families by providing them with a confidant to help them navigate the entire growing family journey from start to age 5. Helping them understand all their benefits, financial and emotional well-being supports, getting them connected to clinical resources, and working through employer-provided and state leaves as well, because oh my gosh, is the leave landscape so complicated. Lots of hand-holding work to be done there. And in order to unlock the full value of your benefits package, backing that investment in family building, it truly does require the hand-holding. I know, Lydia, I couldn't help but come off of mute. It requires that hand-holding experience, the concierge service. The way we do it is delivering it through master's level social workers and a customized app for each employer. So if the employer has Kindbody that sits in our app, really great warm transfers there. The Securian partnership, making sure we're educating folks on all of Securian's VB products, in addition to any other VB products that are offered through other carriers. So all the tools, resources, employee benefits to make sure that employees have the smoothest journey through parenthood. And most importantly, because we are running businesses, returning moms to the workplace after having healthy babies. So improving those claims costs, and that retention is so key. For the leadership piece, Sherry really stuck out to me on getting that leadership buy-in, and man, leadership likes to save money. So how can we help them do that? I see more chats. Let's see. Have they been answered, Sherry? It looks like you've been doing some back and forth. Any other questions?
Sarah, I actually would love for you to elaborate a little bit more. You said to age 5, because we talk to at Kindbody about really after you bring your baby home, it's like the forgotten 4th trimester, and that management of risks during that time is so critical. But take me even all the way up to age 5. Tell me more about that.
Well, with your 9-month-old, and I have a 4 and a 3. I mean, postpartum, you're dealing with stress and anxiety, sleep, breastfeeding is a nightmare, childcare. As soon as you return back to work, this was my experience, but you're putting your child in a daycare facility, they're getting sick constantly. So that backup childcare planning, sometimes conversations with managers about, can I come in earlier so that I can leave earlier to go pick up my kid from daycare? Like, what are those different kind of work schedules and opportunities? So manager conversations all the way up through now. I'm glad you asked. We support children through ages 5. So rolling out Beyond the Bump, very, very excited about that, with child development, work-life balance, and relationships, because it's hard. Like, you become business partners maybe in your home, and when was the last feeding, and when is soccer practice, and those types of things, but working on those relationships is really important for a happy and healthy family. So we're very excited. Going live, we have a few clients in Beyond the Bump now, and then going live market wide in the summertime for Beyond the Bump. So it's taking, as you mentioned, Lydia, we've got to take, from in thinking about critical illness and some of those other offerings, really expanding that support for growing families through that raising of kids journey in all of its glory, and sometimes all of its headaches.
Mm-hmm. And then all the way to menopause as well. Whole other range of different needs that's unique to each individual. I love it.
Yeah, well, we appreciate the partnerships with Kindbody and with Securian. Definitely appreciate all of you on the phone today. Please feel free, I know you see contact information here, to reach out to any of us. We'll make sure that you get a copy of slides and recording. Happy to answer any questions and really dig down deep to help support your clients and your organization. And with that, we're at time. We did it.
Thank you so much for hosting us, Sarah.